Today, on International Women's Day, a member of the Ukrainian parliament posted this message.
Usually on this day, kids are giving their mummies flowers and cards to say how special they are. This year, our kids have been robbed of this opportunity. They are either at refugee camps or very far away from us, to keep them safe. This year, Ukrainian women will receive flowers, but these are not only flowers that we will be carrying, because we are also carrying guns to protect our country along with our men from Putin, crazy dictator, and from the war that Russia is bringing in. I want to congratulate all Ukrainian women who are standing up and fighting. You are incredible.
It's a moving tribute to what's happening all across the country. Ukrainian women are joining men in taking up arms to defend against Russian forces. Besides taking up firearms, women are making Molotov cocktails and helping build barricades and other defenses. All of this may come as no surprise to Ukrainians. Women have been part of their country's armed forces since 1993, with their roles and numbers increasing after Russia invaded Crimea in 2014. Lauren Leader writes about this in her piece on MSNBC Daily titled, "Ukraine's Formidable, Not-So-Secret Weapon, Women." And Lauren Leader joins us now. She's CEO and co-founder of All In Together. Happy International Women's Day to you. Why do you think it's so important to recognize the contribution of Ukrainian women and how they're helping to fight back against Russia's invasion?
Well, one of the truths about democracy is that in every place in the world where there have been struggles for democracy, where there have been fights inside institutions and within countries to gain democratic freedoms, women have been central to that fight. And we know that when women participate more fully in democracy, those movements are more successful. So fundamentally, women are essential to the democratic movement in Ukraine. But they're also essential because, of course, in a time when every every able-bodied citizen matters, women matter more than ever. But you're right that women have played a vital role in the Ukrainian military for a long time. In fact, in 2018, it was women veterans of the Ukrainian military that fought to pass a law that gave them full access, equal access to all the same roles on the battlefield as men. And that turned out to be extraordinarily important. There are now significant numbers of women in commanding roles at the front lines. And then, of course, now we've seen this extraordinary surge of volunteers, of women who have stepped forward, including the member of parliament you just heard from, the former Miss Ukraine, and a 79-year-old woman among them. So women are going to be vital to this fight, both in terms of carrying arms, but also in terms of just the role that they play in peacemaking.
I think one of the things that folks don't realize is the percentage of women in the Ukrainian military is a lot higher than our own military. So this is significant. It's not just, numbers that are just feel-good numbers. They're actually significant. I mean, do you think seeing women join the front lines of the resistance in Ukraine has contributed to the strong support Ukraine is seeing from all around the globe? I mean, these images are powerful. It makes me want to go learn Taekwondo again or something. Seriously.
No, I mean, look, they're so incredibly inspirational. And what I'm blown away by is not just the way in which women are so fearlessly stepping into the void and taking up arms, women who've never done that before. There are also stories of women who are getting their children to safety outside of Ukraine, turning around and returning to their country to fight for it. But I'm also blown away by some of the stories of the soft power, the ways in which women have confronted Russian soldiers and compelled them. Well, first they gave them food and tea, and then compelled them to call their mothers in Russia. And, this might on its surface sound like sort of a fluffy, sort of soft thing to do, but in the end, it's actually turning out to be an extraordinary insight into the weakness of the Russian forces. A lot of these young men are conscripts. They are there against their will. And Ukrainian women getting these men to call their mothers is an extraordinary sort of exercise in soft power, because that has real influence on their resolve to continue fighting. U.S. national security experts have pointed to those viral moments that were caught on video as a sign of weakness in the Russian army that can be exploited. And it's, who else but a woman on the front lines would ever think to do that, to offer the enemy tea and a phone call to their mother? I mean, it's just an unbelievable example of how women lead, about how women think about these things. And, around the world, some of the most intractable conflicts have been solved by women. It's when women come to the table that we find solutions. God willing, that'll be the case in Ukraine, but there's no question. The hero of, there are many heroes in this, seemingly intractable fight, but certainly women rise to the top of that list.
They're so incredibly brave, and seeing them is almost giving me goosebumps because, they're risking their literal lives to stand up for democracy in their own country. And I think that's something here, as Americans, we definitely can relate to that mission. I mean, let's turn to the topic of refugees. 2 million people reportedly from Ukraine have now fled to other countries, including many women and children. We've been showing a lot of that footage and photographs throughout the show. There was video today of women refugees in Romania being given flowers for International Women's Day. Do you think it's important to recognize the sacrifice of women refugees in addition to these women fighters, because many of them are leaving the country to keep their families and children safe? I mean, not everybody's going to be able to pick up arms and fight back. Some people, have to pick up their toddler and get the heck out.
Absolutely. And every time I see these images of women carrying their children, miles for days, I mean, I think there's not a woman among us who doesn't relate to just how extraordinarily difficult that is. The mothers of infants and toddlers and children of all ages, the courage that it takes to keep those children from feeling just absolute terror, trying to be a rock for these young kids who are so traumatized as they're ripped from their homelands and everything they know. And, on International Women's Day, Zerlina, we're all looking at these unbelievable images coming out of Eastern Europe. But it's important to remember that there are tens of millions of women and children refugees all over the world, in conflict zones. Everywhere, women always bear the brunt of the most horrific circumstances. And it's an important time, I think, for us to recognize, just how important these refugee issues are, not just when it's on the front page of the news and on the televisions every night, but all the time. I just have to say a word about my daughter, Chantal, who is a refugee from the Congo, who escaped extraordinary circumstances and is one of the very, very few refugees around the world who made it, who is resettled to the United States. And it's just a really important time for, I think, all of us to recognize how lucky we are and to take a moment to do something to support a refugee organization, to give even a few dollars. This is a worldwide crisis. It's a constant crisis. And maybe this moment will help us see for the long haul the role we all play in making the world a little more hospitable for people fleeing conflict and adversity.
I think these women are such an inspiration. I think it teaches us all to do what we can as individuals to protect the democracy where we are. And they are doing, I think, the most they can do. And I hope that all of them can stay as safe as possible. But again, life and death stakes. Lauren Leader, thank you again for being here on International Women's Day. Please stay safe.